Welcome to the Encore. Today, we're going to dive into financial management. What do you think about that one today?
I don't see Dave Ramsey here, Scott.
Dave's not here.
We don't have the right guy here for this. I'll tell you what, I'm not him.
Yeah. A couple of things precursor to that is, we're not pretending to be Dave Ramsey. This isn't about specific rules or things to do with your money. Last time we did talk about gambling and being irresponsible with money, and so some things come up. The love of money and how that all kind of pertains to how we live life. But money is just a real thing we got to deal with. So as a Christian, how should we deal with it? But give us something fun before we dive into the moolah.
Well, I just changed my mind on what I was going to talk about.
Sure.
Where are you at with Dave Ramsey?
Oh, wow. Dave Ramsey. Here's what I got on Dave Ramsey. He has very good principles.
I knew you were going to probably say this. We've never talked about this, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever talked to you about this. But
I don't think so.
You're going to say what I would also agree.
Okay.
But go on.
He has good principles. I think he has some wise things in my mind. I do think he is best for, and I'm not saying I'm above this or anything. He is best for an American who struggles with debt, who struggles with credit card debt and buying a bunch of things. He is probably the best guy for that. I wouldn't call him the best guy for investments, like long term. I think it's like getting out of debt. Yeah, good stuff. Like I have done his baby steps, and there's some good things to it. Personally, I wish he would use a little bit more kindness and grace. That's my own personal reflection on him.
What do you mean by that?
I think he's mean to people.
Super mean to people.
And I just feel like, you're just talking about money, dude. Settle it down.
He's super condescending to people that are just regular people calling for help. He's incredibly condescending and sarcastic. And I think he must think there's a viewer out there that's just listening from a neutral point of view that enjoys that mean-spirited entertainment or something. He's almost like a Christian shock jock.
Yeah, a little bit.
You're shocked by what he says to people sometimes.
Right. So, yeah, I wish he would be more kind to people like you. I mean, he is benefiting financially from those that are financially struggling in the sense, right? Like he's there to help them.
Benefiting immensely.
Hugely. I get that. But no judgment for that. Like you're allowed to have whatever job you want and your gift.
Service. I know.
Yeah, that's his career, and he's made a thing about. But I think it's like somebody said this to me one time when I was in high school. They said, "At what point does a person who hates kids decide they want to be a teacher?" And I think it just doesn't line up.
Okay.
Like if you are speaking to people in debt, why do you hate those people? Like, don't be mean to them. Help them out. It's great. You got a lot of advice for them. Help them out. What do you got?
Exact same thing. I can't really listen to him because I just can't stand the way he talks to people.
Yeah.
And I don't like it. I don't want to go too far.
I understand.
I don't want to become what he's doing right now about him
in
this conversation. But I can only listen to him in a very limited capacity because I just can't deal with it.
Yeah. I will say though his baby steps have helped me in certain instances, like get to a place.
He's sharp on his financial wisdom.
Yeah.
I have no criticism to make of that.
And it's also possible that you become a radio personality and just have a shtick and go with it.
He definitely has a shtick.
And he might not be that guy in real life.
I think he's probably not.
Yeah.
I think though, he gets listeners for being a jerk.
Yeah.
And you can be a jerk on the radio. Just don't be a Christian. Like just don't, like, what do you mean? What are you doing right now?
Yeah, I just see some love and care out of the guy. So, yeah, there's ESPN personalities that I know they're doing it for a shtick.
He reminds me of the guy. Who's the guy?
You're talking your
favorite guy.
Stephen A. Smith.
Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. Dave Ramsey is the Stephen A. Smith of Christian finance broadcast industry. Right. He's like the Howard Stern of Christian broadcast financial advice, and he would hate that I said that. So you hate that, Dave Ramsey. You made me think of it. The way you talk to people made me think of it.
Yeah. So for anybody that has gone through his financial peace stuff, I mean, that's no lack of criticism at all. Like I think these are
no, I'm not
good
saying
things.
don't listen to his stuff.
Yeah, I know a lot of churches put their programs into play and stuff, and so I think there's some wisdom in that.
Yeah,
in financial management and all of that.
No, please, we're going to talk about it now. Please do something, and if that's what helps you, I'm talking about the man.
Yeah.
And I can't even say I don't like him because I probably would. Like you say, it's probably not even a real.
Right.
It's just I don't like.
Yeah.
I don't like the character.
Okay, before we get into the questions, do you have any financial advisors out there in the sense of a podcast or a blog? Like where might you find some of your principles in your life if you got anything?
Yeah. So I don't have a regular occurring financial podcast. People that have left a mark, the one who has left probably a decent mark on me is Robert Kiyosaki. Mm-hmm. You know this guy? Rich Dad, Poor Dad?
I know his name, but I have not heard his stuff. Yeah.
Robert Kiyosaki's mentality of money and investing left an impression on me to where it kind of framed up what money is and isn't and how it works.
Yeah, okay.
I have two brother-in-laws that are way better at it and way more into it than I am. So I look to them for input on any moves I make or something like that or thinking about doing. It's not like I have some big portfolio. Believe me, we'll talk about I have some glaring blind spots in my financial life. But I always look to improve that. They help me see that because they're better at it.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, last time we talked about gambling and kind of being irresponsible in some respects with money, and that was kind of our point with that. But I did want to bring it back because, again, money's that thing. Like you just have to deal with it. Everybody is dealing. Everybody needs money to survive, and sometimes it's one of those things that maybe we don't talk enough about. Because
I'm probably it is a reputation I have that he does not talk about money enough.
Where does that come from?
It is the most boring subject.
Oh, because you're bored by it.
It is the most boring, awful. It's like trying to talk about, life insurance or something. It's just,
so you're bored. You're bored by today's Encore.
A little bit.
Okay.
Like the subject of money, I despise. To a fault, maybe even a sinful fault.
Okay.
Money means so there's qualifications for an elder and overseer in the Bible, right?
Yeah.
One of them is he does not have a love of money.
Yeah.
Now, there are others I deal with. There are others I battle. Like, I got to be careful. I'm disqualified to do what God has called me to do here. The love of money one is probably the number one easiest thing for me because money means nothing to me. Like, it's not interesting to me. I don't care if I have a lot or a little. I don't love it. I don't know how much I got most of the time. Like it's just the most annoying white noise in the background, and I absolutely hate it. And so like people like I would never be baited for money. Like churches have called, right?
Sure.
So this church down and I won't name the state. They might be listening.
Yeah.
People
Unlike
call
Dave
sometimes
Ramsey.
to try to offer me a job, right? They're like, we are pastor some big mega church in some big well-known city somewhere in the South. And they're like, yeah, we'd like you to be our pastor. We listen to you online all the time. I'm like, nah, I think God's called me up here. And so their next call, and they're good guys. I'm not blaming these guys.
Yeah.
Oh, well, we're prepared to make you a formidable offer. That didn't move me an inch. Like, I'm like, okay, cool, dude. Like, I mean, you want to pay me $200,000? Like, I don't give a rip, dude.
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't move. And even my wife would probably be like, you should probably like do better. And so it's something I'm working on in my life, actually.
Okay.
It's a part I get convicted on.
So you're admitting it's necessary, maybe?
It's hugely necessary.
Right.
It's in the Bible. I just hate it, Scott.
Okay.
It's just so boring.
Let me ask this one before we go into it more. Do you abstain from teaching about it because of the perspective that churches have? The assumption that people have of churches.
So I'm already annoyed right now.
Yeah.
I don't abstain from teaching about it. I'm not teaching on that. Like, I have
You know what I'm referring to, though, right?
Yeah,
like,
I do
Oh,
know
they
it.
always want our money. It's only about money. You got to
Well, number one, I have taught about it. I have preached sermons about it. I even preached a series about it one time. It was called something that I don't remember because it was probably boring. But I did. I preached a series on Sunday to the church. It was all about money. Yeah, there's a little stigma, right? So I care. Yeah. So I have a evangelism bend. So we're always soliciting and looking for the person that does not yet know Jesus. And they come here on Sunday morning.
Right.
Well, they come with a preconceived notion. So I do somewhat try to there's probably something that rises up in me to avoid because I don't want them to think I'm one of these crooks out here. Yeah. The other thing is it's just not in my, there are things in your wheelhouse, right? Like I don't, there's a lot of things that don't recur off. That's why it's good to preach expositionally through books of the Bible like we do a lot of the time because it forces you into territory you normally wouldn't go. So when the text crosses it necessarily, I deal with it. But, it's just not something that rises up like, man, I got to go back to another finance series.
I
punch my own face.
I understand. All right.
Hey, there it is, Treasure on Earth. 2017.
2017.
Yeah, there were like 2 or 3 messages. January Todd, 5. You're the man for finding that.
That was
January
quick,
8th,
Todd.
In our app on the website, I preached a series called Money. That's what I called it. And it was Treasure in Heaven and Treasure on Earth, I believe, were the 2 messages. I talked everything. That is my, what do you call it? What's the college, like, not thesis, but...
Synopsis?
That is dissertation. That is my dissertation on the biblical view of money. Those 2 messages.
That's it. 2 messages.
2 messages.
Right.
Okay, keep going. It matters.
Okay. All right.
And I do manage my money, sort of.
Okay.
I do a lot better with the church than I do with.
Well, that's something we're going to talk about today too, because that is a part of it. But I want to talk about how we should manage money, and basically, we're not going to give you these Dave Ramsey 7 steps. We're going to talk about biblical principles that go how is this applying to me when I think about all the things that we've used. So I want to start with this tithing. Okay, anybody that's been in the church for a while probably knows the word tithing. The word tithing just means 10%.
Tithe means a tenth.
A tenth.
It comes from that word for people that don't know that.
Yes.
That's why it's 10%. Tithe literally means
But let me
10th.
ask you this. So it's common perception to say you should give 10% of your income, send it to the church, right?
It is a common belief, yes.
Common belief. Yep. Should we give 10%? Yes, no, why not?
Well, that's not a thing.
Yeah, right.
That's not a thing in the New Testament church. How about that?
Correct. Yeah.
Should you do that? Many people find it helpful to use as a measure of something.
Yeah.
It comes from back in the day when they were supplying for the priests of the temple.
Right.
Everything, food, and
it was
clothing,
like crops, cattle,
grain, everything.
Yeah.
So the commandment was to give a tenth.
Yeah.
Of the first fruits of all your increase to supply for the needs of the priest.
Right.
That's where it comes from.
Yeah.
Nowadays, it is only to do with the dollar, actual money. It's not, people aren't giving a tenth of their wardrobe or, a tenth of their tools and things like that. They're not doing that. That's what they were doing back then in a lot of ways. So in the New Testament church, that's not commanded.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So on the surface of it, no.
Right.
Should you? Maybe if you, it's not a should, it's if you want. And the Bible literally, talks about that.
Okay. So how should I determine how much I give? Okay, I'm committed to this church. I've been here for a while. Pastor never talks about money because he hates it.
He hates it.
But then all of a sudden I'm going, maybe I should be giving something. People talk about this tithe thing. How do I determine how much I should give?
Oh, boy.
Or if any, whatever. Let's just start with that.
No, you should be a giving person. That's generosity is for real. Okay. 2 Corinthians 9,
2 Corinthians.
6, 2 Corinthians, if you're a former well-known politician. Now this I say, he who sows sparingly, means, gives. It's as a metaphor, will reap or receive sparingly. He who sows bountifully, generously, will reap bountifully. Each one, here it is, must do just as he or she has purposed in his heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion, for God loves a cheerful giver. That's how much you should give, and that's how you should feel about it.
Uh-huh.
Each one as you have purposed in your heart, not grudgingly or under compulsion. So many churches have compelled people to give by guilt or judgment that God did not institute upon them. That is manipulation, which is why, in part, that we do not pass a plate.
Yeah.
It's not because I hate money or some nonsense like that I want to avoid. That compels people. That compels someone who may not have purposed that in their heart because they feel the pressure of the visibility of giving money in the room. I don't really like that. I never liked that because it says God loves a cheerful giver. So if you are cheerfully giving, if you're looking to give, you will give.
Now, would that refer to more than just
absolutely
a check on a Sunday? What would that refer to?
Well, I'm going to use this ministry, this local body, as an example, not because I'm soliciting anything out there, but just as examples. Yeah. People have given us entire vehicles.
Right.
People have given us just a blessing of like certain people in the church that, somebody gave me a house to use for 15 months when my house burned to the ground. People gave me clothes. People gave me stuff like that.
Right.
People have given other people vacations. They have given them of the use of their cabin or facility or car, lake, stuff like that. So that is the giving goes much deeper than here's some money.
Okay. So let me ask you this for you personally, Mr. I don't think about money ever. Hate it. How do you manage your household in the sense of what are the
grudgingly?
Just you don't have to give like specific numbers, of course, but talk about for you like what are the thought processes that you have to go, this is what we should buy or not buy or how I want to manage or pay my bills. And in regards to giving as well, like what are the things that you work through?
So me and Aaron were just talking about this the other day, and so it's gonna sound. This is tough because it's gonna sound like I'm trying to make myself look like
all high and mighty,
like Mr. Spiritual Guy.
You are, dude. Let's hear it. What do you got?
So I might as well tell you guys. Somebody get my robe.
Let's hear it.
Those robes, the preacher robes?
Of course, yeah.
People think I was talking about a bathrobe.
Oh. That didn't cross my mind. Yeah.
So we get my robe.
Yep.
Here's the deal. One of our highest priorities is to invest in hospitality of people at our house, whether that be friends of my kids, whether that be people that we invite over, or whether it be people that those people that we invite over. So, for example, fairly often I watch the only sport I watch, which is fighting, right? Which is UFC or professional boxing. We do that. All that is a central thing around which to have fellowship and reach to people, some which are saved, some are lost, and we very specifically target. Not target. It sounds gross, but like we think through like who and why and how to invest in those people. So a fight is $75. A boxing match is $60. There have been more than one occasion where I'll buy both on the same night and have them both playing on two TVs. And then we buy all the food and have all this. Yeah. And we buy furniture in such a way where people can sit around. I'm not the guy that's going to ask you to put $10 in a mayonnaise jar. I don't do that. If I invite you over and you have food and there's a fight, you don't owe me $5. I don't do that.
Yeah.
Because I want people to come. And then I tell those people, hey, you want to come? If you want to invite anybody. Well, some have gotten comfortable enough. Hey, this is so-and-so. There's a bunch of people I don't even know in my own house. Some are saved and lost, like I said.
Yeah.
That costs so much money, Scott.
Yeah.
So that, the stuff for my kids, extra dirt bikes and stuff like that. Not because we're looking to be extravagant. There's a bike I'd like to sell right now and get $500 in my pocket. But my kids are catching a vision. They're like, hey, but what about when we have people over that aren't familiar, that they're more comfortable? We need that for our, other friends and stuff that come over. I agree. All of that stuff, gasoline, everything. Okay, so I'm getting off track, right? But one of the highest priorities for us, because I think God has just particularly gifted and called us to is hospitality for other people. Meaning there are other things we don't do. We don't go to dinner very often.
Right.
We don't go to movies hardly ever.
Right.
We don't We drive my best car is 12 years old.
Yeah.
Things like that. Other people prioritize that for different reasons. That's fine. You know, we do go on some vacations here and there. We invest in ourselves, so that's a priority.
Yeah.
My marriage is above my kids, so I will spend more money on Aaron and I that will outrank them because they don't. You know, I'd rather have them have good parents and no vacation than divorced parents. And you understand. Yeah. So then. Things like that. And then, of course, you have the necessities, which is a different category, groceries and gas and mortgage and stuff like
it's
that.
different. Yeah.
You're way more, first of all, everybody, Scott's way better at, he loves money.
I love money.
No, you don't. I think you are, I sit around sometimes, I need to confess this to you, and I think, I wish I had part of Scott's brain on how to, I just look at my phone app in my bank, and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I gotta, I don't know what to do with this. Like it's not even necessarily good or bad. I might have money and not like, what should I do here? Yeah. I might, be running out of money and go, what should I do here? And I think, oh gosh, I wonder what Scott does. It's so boring. I'm not going to call him. But so Scott, I think you have a real good balance of wisdom and stewardship that isn't about the love of money or being greedy, or some people would say a tightwad. I don't look at you like that.
Yeah.
I think you'll spend $1,000 right now if you see a good cause for it and not feel anything bad about it. It's not about you got to have money in your pocket.
Okay.
So why don't you talk more than me?
Okay. Well, so let me set the precursor at the risk of sounding like Mr. Spiritual myself. Mm-hmm. There are two things that I think about biblically in the sense of like this is what I want to aspire to be. And I'm not saying that I have it all right, but like there is a ton of understanding of contentment in Scripture. Paul talks about it. 1 Timothy, Philippians, like there's a lot about contentment. And so when I was first in ministry, like my wife and I, we had our first child, Riley, 14 years ago. And dude, like I was literally on the poverty line, and I wasn't celebrating that, but it just taught me to go, you don't need a whole lot. Like you just like be content with this. Yeah. Like I was happy to have our little apartment and all of that. But I think that helped teach me to live minimally, I guess is the way to say it. Mm-hmm. So, and then, being a steward of like understanding like God has given this to me. So I want to be a steward of all these things that God has given. And so my wife and I always say this, again, not to say we don't fail at times, but we say we want to hold things loosely, meaning I don't want to hold anything where I would never be willing to get rid of it. And I have to say, all those years of ministry, for first few years, I've had, I don't even know if I can remember the number, more than several people give me vehicles over.
I've never seen anything like it. People give you more. You could run a used car lot business based on gimmies.
It's just weird. So I've said, because of that, why would we ever hold that back from anybody else? Like God has opened that door in our life. People have given us vehicles and they run for a year or two, whatever, dies, and then somehow another one. And it's whatever. We've purchased vehicles too.
Right.
But it's happened. So we've said we would want to do the same and to give that back to people. So I admit, like, I enjoy the management aspect of it. Like, it's fun to me to work through a budget.
Yeah, you like to see the numbers.
It's weird. I know.
No, it's not weird. I think there are a lot of people like that. I think it's really good that you do it.
But I'm not an accounting genius by any means. Like, the truth is, if people say, what do you do to manage the money? The only principle I would say, this is not necessarily a biblical thing, I would say live beneath your means. That's it. Mm-hmm. If you make $50,000 in a year, live off of $40,000. Mm-hmm. And you could do it, because I was living off of $20,000 years ago, and it was just like somehow it worked. And so like I know this is what it costs to live life. Now, I have to say this as a side note. Holy cow, we are living in a different world where everything is inflated. And
it's caused me a new problem. I'm right now. Me and Aaron we talked yesterday. So if people want like a practical thing, if you're married, one thing I do find very valuable that I don't do quite enough, but I'm trying to do more, is talk with my spouse about it.
Yeah,
like, hey, here's let's continue to readjust and realign and strategize what we're going to do and why we're going to do it. But But that being said, I'm in the middle of kind of a retool right now because things have changed so dramatically. It's affected me negatively, and I haven't adjusted for that. So I'm like, what? Something is sideways in my budget, and I'm like, what the heck happened? So I look at my life. I'm like, what did I do? What did I buy? And I can't. And it's the change in the economy.
Everything. Yeah. So the other thing too, like I think about, we can have too many things that tie us down. Again, I'm a minimalist. I have several struggles in my life. Possessions are not one of them for me. I don't desire a boat, a bike. I just don't care. I want a smaller house, and I have too many things. I don't even like it. Like, I would like to minimize that. But I have kids and all of that too. But I want to live in a place where I am free to do what God's called me to do. And I think by having all of those different things, that ties people down, man. I'd love to go and help, but I got this week, and I got to take care of my whatever it is. I don't want to name things because I'm not trying to indict people on specific things, but they have all these things that they're trying to maintain, and it holds them back from doing any sort of ministry. And even like we've talked about retirement, and then there's this super spiritual aspect that a pastor could never retire. Whatever retirement means, I'm not going to sit around and do nothing. I want to be in a place where I'm financially free to go. I could be at a church, I could be here. I could teach these classes. I could oversee this thing, but have the freedom to go, man, I'm going to take this trip to Africa or whatever, So, all of that to say, I don't know.
That is a goal of mine that I am very far away from at the moment, but I am taking steps working toward it. You and I talk offline about it sometimes. And have even talked about going in on things together to make that happen. One of the goals I have is to work myself completely out of the church budget. And not work myself out of the church necessarily. Like, I don't want people to be like, oh, are you? No, that's not. I would like to be doing exactly what I'm doing now. And the church not pay me $1.
Right.
I wish I could do that.
Right.
And so, wishing isn't going to get you there. So there are different things that I'm trying to look into and invest in and try to get different kinds of residual income to not get more money, but to get enough money to walk away from other money. That is one thing I do desperately want to do.
That's good.
Somebody that liked money a lot more than me could probably get it done a lot faster. So I spend a lot of time wishing and thinking about it and not doing anything.
And I'm with you. Like, Jessica and I have just recently talked about, man, we got to sit down and redo this budget because of this world that we're living in. It's just, it is so different.
This makes me good to hear you say this, because I'm sometimes just financially irresponsible, but you're not. So to hear you say this, because that's the conclusion I'm coming to. I'm taking a hit right now, and I can't quite figure it all out until I fill my truck up, or until I look at the gas-guzzling vehicles I drive. Or, you run your kids around, and that costs way more than it used to. Or eat food and everything. It's crazy, man. It's weird.
Yeah, but I feel like I've had to move to in a little bit, because I can be I have a tendency to stick to something so tightly, like back when money was way tighter, that I would get so upset, like to lose $10 or whatever. Like, I just and I'm like, I got to get to a place of that can't bother me anymore. And I think I have, but sometimes there's give and take on both sides. So I do want to ask this question about, you and I are both elders in this church.
It's a good direction.
How do we, you take personal finances at home, and then people might ask, like, how are we managing the money of the church? So how is that related? How do you take principles from this and home, and also for you personally to say that this is what we want to look at within the church, what we're doing?
So number one, from the get on this one, anyone that's listening and curious about that, or has a financial brain, which I don't, is welcome to see the budget and the details and what it goes to the savings account at any time. So if you are not being annoying, you have every right to take a look at that. So if you want to look at any of that, just let you know. So we do have an operational budget. There's a lot that goes into that would be too much to go right now, but there's an operational budget. It breaks up a certain way depending on the priority of the Great Commission. The Great Commission governs the budget: preach, baptize, disciple. The locations listed in the book of Acts govern where the priorities of that Great Commission budget goes. Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, uttermost parts of the earth. If we spend more on the uttermost parts of the earth than we do our Jerusalem here, something's backward.
Yeah.
So all of that comes into play in how we look at
that's good.
the budget.
That's good.
Then on top of that, there is wisdom. I think we kind of gain from Joseph as far as a savings. What do you say? A disaster scenario. A whatever. So Joseph is put in charge of Egypt, too much to tell the story, but he comes, the Pharaoh has a dream, and Joseph interprets the dream that there's going to be 7 years of famine coming.
Right.
And so because he was able to interpret the dream, the Pharaoh asks him what to do. And so he says, let the Pharaoh take action to appoint overseers in charge of the land. Let him exact a fifth of the produce of the land of Egypt in the 7 years of abundance. Then let them gather all the food of these good years that are coming, store up grain for food in the cities under Pharaoh's authority, and let them guard it. And then it says, let the food become a reserve for the land for the 7 years of famine. It's exactly what happened. Egypt became the richest nation on the earth that we know of at the time because all the other nations had to buy from their reserves.
They were coming to them.
And so in the time of famine, because of Joseph's wisdom, they became incredibly wealthy.
Right.
So here we would say a very similar thing. There are good years whereas the people of God are blessed and they are moved of the Holy Spirit according to being a cheerful giver. They are generous financially with the ministry. And so we try to take a Joseph principle and have that reserve. And that has been necessary. So that makes it through things like COVID. It makes it through things like economic downturns. I was the pastor here back in 2008 during the greatest crash of my lifetime.
Crazy.
And many churches and budgets and ministries did not make it. We don't brag on ourselves. We brag on the provision of the Lord and the wisdom of the Scripture, but ours did, and in some ways even prospers through those times. So we do have that. We do have a Joseph savings at times, and that fluctuates depending on different things. But
Yeah, the other thing I would add to that, too, is you admitted like that's not your specialty. So we do have specific people who are designated with that gift of financial management that oversee those funds too.
That's probably why it goes better here than it does in my house. So
well, that's partly
appoint overseers. I have appointed overseers, and I can actually answer very few questions about the specifics of the budget. Not because I'm in the dark, but we stay in our lane here. If you want me to preach the gospel, call me. I'll be there. The people that are going to help make that happen and fund me to get there have much more wisdom and gifting. So there they go, and they're doing a fine job of it.
Right. That's a good way to say it. And we entrust others with those skills to do that. And I know you kind of briefly talked about it in there too, but we try to be giving. Like there are specific people, benevolence.
The ministry itself.
The ministry itself.
Absolutely.
Yes. There are other ministries that we regularly support, but then there's often just an occasional circumstance that has come up. We want to be giving. We're not able to do 100% for every person. That's just not feasible. But we want to be people that are. So
I would want to say this just for transparency's sake and encouragement for people that are part of the Rock Church. Not to brag. It's very hard to talk about. That's probably why I don't talk about it too, because it's so blessed. Sometimes it makes you feel like, oh, you're kind of, what are you trying to say?
But it's also due to a whole team. It's not you and me talking about this. It's a whole team. So anyway.
Right. But even on behalf of the church as a whole, I don't want to be like, the Rock Church is the best.
Right.
But we have given probably hundreds of thousands outward. So like there's one church nearby that we gave $25,000 to. We decided that in a moment because they were in trouble and had some facility problems. And I just caught wind of it. Brought it to the elders. We're like, well, let's give them $25,000. We give tens of thousands to places in South Africa, ministries in South Africa to do ministry. Other church plants we've given, I think, over $100,000 each in a regret.
Over time, you mean?
Yeah, over time.
Yeah.
And I'm just saying that so people know it's not like we're trying to hoard it the reason we're trying to be wise with it is also to give it away, as you say. I just want people to know that.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, that's good. So, as always, we can talk this thing to death. I want to ask this one more thing. Let's fire away. So, how about luxury? I'm going to ask for the pastoral side of it, but I'm also going to ask for anybody following Jesus. Like, people love to judge people based on the car they drive, the house they live in.
I got a story for you. If you want.
Yeah. How would we know? Is it okay to have luxury, and where is the line? Yeah, go for it.
You ready for this story?
Yeah, let me hear it.
This happened like 4 days ago.
Okay. I haven't heard this story. Huh?
So hospitality, right? There are people at my house. It we're just talking about things. I'm not trying to. Boasting is gross, so I'm trying not to do that.
Yeah.
There are people at our house every single day, just about, like, just coming and going. Some I know, some I don't know, for a variety of reasons. Mostly kids, but there are people stop by, and my neighbors, and different things. So I had a guy over to watch a fight the other night. Several people, but I had a guy, and I'm like, hey man, you can bring whoever you want. If you got somebody you're trying to reach, bring them. We got food and so forth. So he brings a dude I've never met. Like, he brings a guy, and I don't know if the guy knows the Lord or not. So the guy walks in my door. He comes down my driveway, walks in the door. I greet him at the door. I shake his hand. He goes, hey, this is so and so. And the guy goes, man, it looks like preaching the good word is profitable, because he's at my house.
Yeah.
So I live in a fairly new house. So the dude that invited him smiles at me because he knows what I'm going to do next. And I go, yeah, you know what else is profitable? When your house burns down with all your kids in it and they barely make it out alive, and the insurance company pays for a new house. And he goes, oh, I'm sorry, did that happen? Yeah, that happened. He looks at his buddy, and the dude goes, oh, that's exactly what happened, actually. And he goes, oh, dude, I'm sorry. But there it is, right? Like, I'm not mad at the guy. It was just fun to say that. But there it is. He saw, and his first thing was like, a little bit of luxury going on here. Must be a criminal.
Yeah.
I don't know if you asked a question, but it made me think.
Yeah, so that's a good story. Is it okay to have luxury? For I know that this probably is another 10 minutes of conversation, so maybe just briefly talk about, somebody comes to you, I want pastoral advice, and I'm making a lot of money. Can I drive this Ferrari? Like, what are the things that you would want to bounce off them? What are questions they should ask?
I mean, sure. Like, how did you get it, and why are you doing it? Again, everything it's such a cop out sometimes, it seems like, but everything in the Bible, everything in our Christian walk is very often about the condition of the heart, the motive of the heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if you should. Is a Ferrari percentage wise? That guy might spend less on his Ferrari than I spent on my motorcycle, which was $2,000.
Yeah.
Like, so it's like, I have a motorcycle from 2005. Do I need it? Absolutely not, dude. Yeah. It's just a little thing. Like, it's just what I got. It was $2,000. And he may have spent $150,000 on something, but to him, it hurt me more. So why are we I don't know how to cast judgment on that.
Yeah, sure.
Now, the motive of pride, the motive of flaunting, of shaming, if that is your identity, those are the questions you need to ask. How'd you get that money?
Yeah.
Are you also, can you point to generosity? Can you point to benevolence and hospitality in your life also? Or is that, because of that, you can't do anything else? If I can't host anybody at my house because I bought something for myself, it's probably kind of a bad deal.
Right. Yeah.
I don't think luxury is so subjective, and I don't know how people draw these lines. And I'm not saying that's not because I want some megaplex. It's I don't really. I'm with you. I don't care a lot about things. They serve purposes, and I enjoy them probably a little more than you. But like, dude, I don't know how to do that. Like, who's in luxury? There's a guy in some third world village that has the nicest hut in the town, and he's judged as harshly or more harshly than the dude living on the lake out here. I don't know how to do that, but I know people that live on the lake that have blessed a lot of teenagers that have never been on a boat, never water skied, and we were able to communicate the gospel with them because we had a party in their backyard. They were generous with their luxury.
Yeah.
I don't know how to do it.
Yeah.
It's about your heart. You better check yourself.
No, I think it's a good way to sum that up. Like, why are you doing that? What are your motives behind it? And so, people can only answer that for themselves. But I think we got to be careful to put a line on everybody else and to judge them. And so,
man, we could talk.
We could talk forever.
I guess we can't. Oh man, I gotta go.
Yeah, I gotta wrap it up.
I gotta go. Okay.
All right. Awesome. We're just gonna hard stop it right there. And as always, don't take our word for it, being His. And we'll see you next time on the Encore.